So I'm with Sir Michael Bichard, Executive Director of the Institute of Government, who's just delivered the keynote speech at today's IDA event. Talking about Total Place, we're in the early stages of the programme. Where do you think we're up to now, looking back at the first few months, in terms of some of the barriers to achieving a successful programme?
In terms of achieving a successful Total Place programme, I think if we'd have asked ourselves 11 months ago, which is how long Total Place has been around, whether at this point we'd be happy to be where we are, we'd have said yes. Total Place, as I was saying earlier, I think is about trying to persuade not just people in the pilots, not just people in the parallel pilots, but people in public services generally, that there is a different way of doing things, and that if we're going to provide better service at less cost, actually we've got to behave in a different way. It's not a traditional set of pilots and a traditional program. It's about trying to change mainstream behaviour.
And you talked a bit about the twin aims. Do you see there being a conflict between better customer services and reducing costs, or are they two sides of the same coin?
I've never seen that conflict, and I don't see it now, and I think it's unfortunate that some people are trying to create that sense that someone's betrayed us by suddenly beginning to talk about efficiencies and cost savings. I mean, I think a lot of our services are badly designed. I think they could be, if they were redesigned, they could provide better service at less cost. And that's got to be the ambition. You know, the public deficit, the debt, is huge. You know, we've got to look for new ways of doing things. I think we can. One of the interesting things about public services is that when you've got lots and lots of money, there's no real incentive for people to redesign the services, because you're throwing money at them, you're throwing people at them. When you've got no money, people start thinking about how you can make the existing service more efficient and more productive. And what that says is that there rarely is a time when people think, hey, maybe we just need to redesign this. Now, most of the clients out there, a lot of the clients out there, I don't want to overstate it, will say, well, look, this is the time to redesign the service, which is not giving me what I want.
And so it's not about incremental change, it's about thinking differently completely about
I think it is about thinking differently, and as I said in there, you look at what the pension service has done over the last few years. You know, they were set what they thought at the time was an impossible target for savings, but it forced them to think about radically about how they were delivering the service. They changed that, and most people out there, I certainly would accept, sadly as a pensioner, that the service has improved significantly. Look at DVLA and what they've done. It can be done.
And we talked a little bit about some of the barriers. And in terms of customer insight, what role do you see that playing in Total Place?
Well, we've all convinced ourselves, I think, that we've done a lot of customer insight. That, you know, as I said, we've been involved in customer service for a long time. We know about customers. I think the more and more you kind of dig under the surface, the more you have to ask yourselves, well, do we know where the money is going? Do we know where physical services are being provided relative to where clients are? Do we know whether or not we're over-providing for some groups, maybe under-providing for others, whether our services are misaligned? I don't think we've done analysis of spend and analysis of customers. I don't think we know enough about who our customers are, who they're not, where they are, what they want, how they want to engage with us. And you know, Total Place and the analysis we've done of the work in Total Place shows that's improving, but there's still quite a long way to go. And going back to your previous question, it tends to show that people use customer insight as a way of improving the quality of services. They don't tend to think of it as a way of saving money, which it could well be.
Okay. And also looking forward, one of the issues that came up in the questions was about data sharing, and you gave the analogy about car insurance. Do you see that what being one of the main barriers in terms of going forward?
I think it is at the moment. I mean, barriers, and you know, when you say yes, I agree, it's a barrier. Some people think, oh well, he accepts you can't do anything about it. I don't say you can't do anything about it. It is something which we've got to negotiate our way around. But I think what we have at the moment is a position where the technology is available to manage and share data pretty well at will. Sometimes government's not very good at the way in which it manages the introduction of the technology, but nonetheless you can do it. But that's come at a time when there's almost no public trust in public agencies sharing and managing data because of the way in which data has been lost, because of the way in which some people think it's been manipulated, you know, for security reasons, because of the fact that we perhaps haven't managed the introduction of big IT systems like patient connect as well as the public would want. Now, I think we've got to look at new solutions. I mentioned a couple in there. Another is perhaps we're not doing enough to give individuals control over their own data. In other words, maybe people would be more prepared to share data and information if they were the people who were taking that decision, whereas at the moment they often think it's Big Brother taking that decision and they don't like it.
And obviously we've got election coming up very shortly. Where do you see where do you see Total Place expanding, or is it going to become part of the culture across local government?
Well, it's not just across local government, it's a culture of public services. It's about the relationship between local and central government. It's about the way central government behaves. We haven't talked a lot about that, but you know, I never let central government officials or ministers, you know, forget that this is as much about how government needs to change the way it works as it is about local government. Because one of the problems is that in central government, too often, when you talk about these things, it's all about how they can do it better out there. Well, actually, centre's making a bit of a mess of it as well. I think both the parties, in the discussions I've had with them at quite senior levels, indicate that this is the direction they want to take. Whether they continue to call it Total Place or whatever, I don't really mind. But I don't actually think there's much of an alternative. I mean, the current system is not working well. I'd go as far as to say on occasions it's dysfunctional. You've got to do things differently, and working more effectively together, introducing more innovation into the system, being radical about the way you design services. Actually, just designing services would be a start. I think that's got to be the way forward.